Welcome and thank you for attending my Capella talk. Capella was one of the archbishops that didn't have many followers before the third season, but it appears that the third season has helped her earn a lot of them. I'm not sure why that is. In truth, the archbishop has fascinating lore, both in the main plot and in the minor novels. For example, we know she was behind an attack on Anastasia 9 years before episode 1, and we also know she was responsible for Elsa's decision to live the lifestyle she did. But stay with me in this video as I tell you about her life before the anime, her abilities, and the author's future intentions for her. Little is known about Capella's past story to her entrance in the third season, although the oldest recorded mention of her, while unsubstantiated, is that there was once a princess named Emerada Lugunica, precisely like the archbishop. It was reported that this princess died young and had a disagreeable demeanor. She was so despised that even her death occurred behind closed doors within the palace. This is unusual because while we don't know much about the kingdom's previous kings and princes, we do know that they were popular among the people. As a result, the existence of a record of an unpopular princess creates certain concerns. To this day, it is unknown if the archbishop is the genuine Emeralda Lugunica who has returned from the dead, or simply someone who has assumed the identity of the awful princess and is using that appearance to torment the nation. But let us go on to something more substantial. Now I'll discuss a real record that we have evidence of. Approximately 9 years before the first episode of the anime, Capella attempted to grab an artificial spirit left behind by the Witch of Greed 400 years ago. To accomplish this, she delegated the task to one of her children named Rysel. While I understand that I mentioned she allocated one of her children, this does not suggest that Capella is a mother. Rather, it is how the archbishop refers to her immediate subordinates. But back to the matter at hand. Rysel was assigned this job, and Capella also gave him a metia that allowed him to manipulate shadows. It was intended to make his assignment easier. Unfortunately, the novel recounting these events has yet to be translated, which is a shame because this is when Anastasia meets Eridna, the spirit we see in Arc 5, as well as how Anastasia recruits Mimi and her brothers as the ultimate protectors for her army. Unfortunately, Rysel was unable to complete his task due to interference from Anastasia and her group. Additionally, they destroyed the media that Mother had given him. Due to the paucity of medias on the world of Re-Zero, it appears that Capella was dissatisfied with the losses she suffered during her mission. So she did something horrific to him, even worse than what we saw at Pristella, when inhabitants were turned into flies. Below is a passage from the novel that portrays Capella and Rysel's reunion following his mission failure. Ricardo and that enemy who'd gotten in his way, that figure who he'd barely caught a glimpse of at the end, had been the brat who'd been with Ricardo back at the town. In other words, he'd been deceived not just once, but 100 times. He'd been played by that idiotic dog human who didn't know how to use his head.
I'm gonna kill them both, that brat and that bastard Ricardo. I absolutely will next time.
Next times are such luxurious things. Do you think there'll be one of those for scum like you?
Aita.
If you're thinking that, then don't you think that head of yours is far too optimistic? Doesn't a head which loses its capacity to think mean that head is no longer necessary to have? Kia-ha-ha-ha.
A pair of feet suddenly appeared in front of Rysel's eyes as he crawled across the ground, blocking his way. Enveloped in fear as if his heart had frozen over, he slowly looked up. His eyes met with her red ones, which were brimming with indescribable cruelty.
But please wait. Let me try and explain this.
No. I don't think there's anything that you need to report. Wouldn't you think? That's because this lovely lady was looking at you this whole time. It even looks like you used up this lovely lady's collection on this. I'm so shocked I don't even know what to say. Kia-ha-ha-ha.
As she said that, the young girl with red eyes and golden hair, "No, Mother," laughed, and Rysel's alarm bells started ringing to the absolute utmost as he heard her laughter. Words, actions, supplication, truth, all of these choices ran through his mind, his thoughts burning with them. However, before he could put any of them into action,
It's too late. I thought I appreciated slyness, but I guess I was wrong. Farewell, my adorable son, but misbehaving children have to be pruned. You see, it's just like you would with potted plants. Don't you agree? This lovely lady will put your useless head to good use.
Mother quietly stuck her hand out towards her foolish son, who'd failed to accomplish his duty. Rysel's consciousness transformed the instant she'd seized his forehead with her small palm. No, what transformed wasn't his consciousness. It was his very being. His arms and legs were taken away from him, and his body transformed with a crunch, broken, flattened, regenerated, and remade anew. His brain and his organs were all churned about.
Abu, abu, boo, abu, boo, 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 boo.
Ah, I've been looking forward to increasing my collection, but I never thought I'd be parting with both my artifact and my son. Oh, what a disaster for me. Such a tragic woman.
He could hear Mother's voice. He could still hear it. His ears and his eyes had disappeared. He no longer had the form of a living creature, and yet he still had his consciousness. He still was himself. Himself. What was the meaning of that? The meaning of thinking. A head to think. Thinking. What did those even mean? What did it mean? What did it mean?
Kia ha ha ha, fucking piece of shit. All of you die. One of these days, I will definitely get my hands on you. Isn't that right, Legacy of the Witch?
He could hear Mother bellowing that out as she laughed loudly. Mother's laughing, so that means she's happy. Thus I have to be happy too. As his brain was being twisted into those thoughts, Rysel, the thing that was Rysel, was obediently and diligently pruned. He was pruned. Capella was reported to be aiming to make and possess the perfect doll at some point before to or following Rysel's incident. By perfect doll, she meant a process in which curses may be used to create a powerful, nearly eternal entity. Capella wanted one perfect evil doll who would accept her commands, or so it was thought. But she said that all she wanted was to see one of her children struggle to execute this order and please her as their mother. So she dispatched one of her daughters, Sithonia, to get her the right doll. Under Capella's orders, Sithonia entered the organization of Holoseo, a person well-versed in this prohibited skill who, strangely, desired to produce the ultimate cursed doll. He utilized the orphaned females he had already gathered to create cursed dolls. Despite the ritual's success, none of them had yet achieved the status of perfect doll. You see, in order to create the ideal doll, they all had to kill one another until only one remained. So he directed Elsa Granhiert, one of his many dolls, to murder him. This prompted the other orphans, who had a strong affinity to Holoseo, to promise revenge, so initiating the process of finding the perfect doll. Sithonia hoped to win this tournament so she could attain tremendous power and rid herself of Capella, but she lost the struggle against the other finalist, Elsa, and died as a result. Elsa was about to depart when she ran into Capella. To be honest, I was going to include the dialogue where Capella meets Elsa, but it would have been too long, and I've already included the dialogue between Capella and Rysel. I'll incorporate the reduced dialogue in my future Elsa PowerPoint presentation. However, this encounter between the two might be summarized as Capella threatening Elsa to serve her and become her daughter. Normally, this would not work on someone like the Bowel Hunter, but Elsa had two people to protect at the time. Thus, she had little choice but to join Capella's group and begin calling her Mother. Capella presumably assigned Elsa to find Mei Li and bring her to her. This was how the two females would meet. Although it is not confirmed, it appears that Archbishop Roy Alfard also obeys her directions. This is implied by his frequent references to her as Mother. It appears that throughout those years, she developed her crew of assassins, who were assigned various jobs, occasionally for money, as seen in Episode 1. Capella did not send Elsa to steal from Emilia. Rather, it was all at Roswal's request. Later, it is deduced that she was responsible for the events of Arcs 2 and 4, but this cannot be proved with certainty, because it's possible that someone else placed the order through Capella. Remember that she accepts assignments like this, thus she might not have been the genuine concealed offender. So, we come to the events of Arc 5, but you already know this. Let's go on to the next section. In reality, Capella possesses both interesting and broken skills. First, she possesses the capacity to turn herself and others into anything she desires. This is also a useful skill for infiltration. For example, suppose Capella wants to infiltrate somewhere. All she has to do is turn into someone else to accomplish it. In fact, that's exactly what she did at the start of Season 3. It is reported that she entered the town hall disguised as a random child, attacked everyone, and then delivered the announcement. This is a skill that could be valuable in fighting. While Capella lacks physical power, she does not need it because she can defeat her opponent by transforming them into something vulnerable. In this fashion, she could beat some of the most powerful persons after Reinhard, including Marcos, Julius, and Garfield. She also has some unique characteristics, such as dragon blood running through her veins, which may be used as a weapon under specific conditions, and a type of black flame that arises in her dragon form and cannot be simply extinguished. Oh, and let's not forget her capacity to generate monsters from corpses. The most alarming aspect is her intelligence and observational skills. While the archbishops possess considerable power, they are also particularly vulnerable to manipulation. Capella, on the other hand, cannot be easily deceived because she is able to discern a person's fears and desires thanks to her keen observation skills. She has also demonstrated the ability to anticipate her attackers and make swift decisions. This was evident in the trap she set for Crush and Subaru upon their arrival at the town hall, as well as in her decision to strike the hero's base while most of their fighters were away. I believe this is the most dangerous aspect about Capella. You cannot conceal anything from her, and if she sets her mind to it, she can simply read you like a book and predict your decisions. The power scale is difficult to categorize, mostly because if it were a power scale based on brute strength, Capella would lose because Sirius is physically stronger, while Reinhard is significantly stronger. I believe it would be more fair to define Capella based on her infiltration talents and her ability to attack when one's guard is down. For example, Capella may easily turn into a small fly, visit her victim's home, and then assassinate or poison them when they least expect it, as she did with Crush. In fact, when Sithonia was alive, she was known to be scared of whatever animal she encountered, be it a pigeon or a bug. She was afraid because she suspected Capella was spying on her as she transformed. Although the notion of Capella entering Amelia's camp and eliminating faction members one by one sounds amazing, it would not be possible if Beatrice were present. Remember, she can smell the Archbishop's miasma. But returning to the video's primary point, in terms of power and trickery, I believe Capella could defeat any of the strongest opponents except Reinhard. I wouldn't know what to add in this area because Capella has no accomplishments, at least not nice ones. It is only known that she had an assassination team made up primarily of Elsa, Meili, Rizel, Roy, and Sakura. She undoubtedly has more random people working for her, but I doubt they are particularly important. Sakura is the one person I have some faith in, and that's because she played a key role in an alternate story from a ReZero game. And I say I have faith in her since Tapai has stated that he wants to canonize the characters from these routes in the main story. Anyway, I feel like this is an unnecessary section, so let us move on to the final part of the video. In general, this is my favorite part of the video since I can elaborate without fear of repercussions, but in this case, I'm sad to inform you that there is no information about Capella after her performance in the 3rd season. So, if you're a fan of the Archbishop of Lust, I'm sorry to inform you that there will be no stuff about her for the next 10 years. The only information we have on her comes from alternative stories, which are not canon but provide an idea of what she might be doing. For example, Rem If reveals that Capella once raided a town in Kararagi and implanted something into a girl's ear. This girl would soon obtain the ability to sense miasma, and she would assault Subaru and Rem later in the novel. Capella is also known to have been hunting for remnants in Kararagi during the early events of Subaru and Rem's What If. One would imagine that much as she was interested in Typhon's remains in Pristella, there may be a witch buried in the next country. But, as it turns out, all the witches died in Lugunica, so it's unclear what she was looking for there. Later, in the alternative gluttony route, Capella does not appear, but the author acknowledges her in a Q&A session, stating that she recognizes the Subaru from that narrative as a very insane person who should be avoided. Perhaps we could add Capella in the Ayamatsu route, where it is revealed that Subaru killed her. And before you ask, no, we don't know how he accomplished it. But just as Subaru calculated Regulus's vulnerability from his constellation, he must have done something similar to deal with Capella. To conclude, according to the author, Capella has a significant trauma that has shaped her life. Perhaps this tragedy is the reason she so urgently wants to be liked. It is likely that when she sees a couple who love each other unconditionally, regardless of their appearances, she will overcome her trauma. And believe it or not, this has already occurred in the main novel. Garfield's mother is aware of her husband's current condition, and she has stated that she is unconcerned with his changing appearance. Despite these changes, she still loves him and wants to live with him. Perhaps the author kept this subplot open so that when Capella returns, the protagonists will have an emotional weapon to use against the Archbishop. But tell me, what do you think of Capella?